we're having on those around us in our community, I think the reporting will look a little different.
And I think just as far as coming together as a community, you stressed that it's really important to get support from one another and talk about what it is that you're going through and continue to talk to your children.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Right, outpouring of love to children during that time. Play with them more, hug them more. It'll help you and it'll help them feel better. Yeah.
What more can you say when it comes to your approach and what you're teaching at Loyola School of Maryland? What do you think people should take from situations like this, and what are you encouraging your students to learn from it?
Well, I think it's important to remember that while trauma events can cause psychological distress, it can also provide opportunities for growth. And so being able to focus on what can we do in this situation that will make this a better place to live because it happened, rather than just focusing on the level of threat that we feel. So serving, reaching out to others, memorials, even religious rituals can be helpful and healing for people, and help them focus on things like meaning making, which can be very healing and it helps us develop psychological strength for the next events.
Great. We appreciate you being here. Helpful advice. I'm sure a lot of people can take a lot from it. So thank you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. Coming up next, we will discuss Maryland's domestic violence laws that are back on the agenda at the General Assembly. Stay with us. You're watching 11 TV Health.
Today's 11 TV Hill is brought to you by Stevenson University School of Graduate and Professional Studies. Imagine your future. Design your career.
There used to be business specialists, then technology specialists. But that separation just doesn't make it in today's workplace. Emerging manager jobs now demand both skills. So how and where do you learn to best merge the two? The answer is Stevenson's online master's degree in business and technology management. You'll get the critical and cutting-edge skills you need. Learn more at stevenson.edu. Find out why Stevenson's Master's in Business and Technology Management is the perfect merger of skills for your career.
Wake up to something better than this. Wake up with the WBAL TV 11 alarm clock app. It's your custom wake-up call, live interactive traffic maps, a detailed local forecast, and late-breaking headlines. Brought to you by your local Ford dealers.
I kind of was indifferent toward Ford, and then I sat in the Fusion for the first time, and I was just like, wow. I tell people, look at what Ford has to offer.
Make the switch. Lease a Ford Fusion for just $179 a month. See your local Ford dealer today.
Okay, so I just dropped Emma off at daycare. I still have to stop by the pharmacy, get something for tonight. Oh, geez, but no chicken. Emma loved that cartoon chicken movie we just watched. She'd freak. I have to go by the pet store and get Milo a new leash. Stupid puppy teeth. Oh no, and I can't forget to print out our tickets for California.
At any second, your life could be interrupted by an automobile accident. Don't let an insurance company trick you with a quick, cheap settlement. Contact us first. Over $100 million recovered for our clients. Call Levinas, Tolsman, and Hamilton at 800-3584-LAW today.
Even in rough winter weather, your car goes the extra mile. At Maaco, our locally owned centers make repairs easy, affordable, and reliable. So don't let the weather slow you down. Bring your car to Maaco and let us turn the car you drive back into the car you love. Maaco, America's Body Shop.
Insta Weather Plus forecast with Ava Marie, weekday mornings at 11 News.
On any given day, domestic violence programs in Maryland are seeing 1,000 clients. The topic is on the agenda in this session of the Maryland General Assembly. What constitutes domestic violence? Attorney and legal clinic director at the House of Ruth, Dorothy Lenig, joins us to tell us more. Welcome, Dorothy. Thanks so much.
Welcome.
We appreciate you being here. And first, before we get to the legislation, let's just talk about what constitutes domestic violence, because it's really it varies, right?
Well, when we talk about domestic violence, we're really talking about intimate partner violence. So at the House of Ruth, we think of it as a pattern of assaultive and controlling behavior that one adult intimate does to another. So we're not so much talking about child abuse or elder abuse, but we're really talking about abuse from one adult intimate to the other.
Okay. Will lawmakers pass legislation for a permanent protective order? I think that's what we're talking about now, right? You want to get it to that point.
Well, this year, the governor and the lieutenant governor put in their legislative package 3 really important domestic violence bills. One is to lower the standard of proof in a protective order. One is to make a permanent protective order a little bit easier to get. And the third would make it a crime to commit an act of violence in front of domestic violence in front of a child.
Okay. So those are all on the agenda right now. What are the chances of a permanent order being put into law, and also what are the advantages of having a permanent protective order?
Well, currently, in a very, very limited situation, a victim of domestic violence can get a permanent protective order. And what this bill would do would be to expand that by a little bit. So now, generally, a protective order is for a year, sometimes 2 years. It can be extended sometimes for 2 years. But to get a permanent protective order, the respondent has to commit a certain crime, certain kinds of crimes, and actually serve 5 years in prison. Under the proposed changes, it would add second-degree assault to that list, and an awful lot of domestic violence is second-degree assault. And what we're proposing is that instead of having to serve 5 years, they would just have to be sentenced to 5 years.
Gotcha. So how do you help victims determine which order to seek?
When it's protective orders are for people who have the right relationship. So you have to either be current or former spouses, have a child in common, or be living together, generally, in order to get a protective order. If you're dating, then you need to get a peace order. And there's another bill in the front of the General Assembly this year to expand the protective order to include people in dating relationships.
Okay. It all makes sense to me that this would be put into law. Why is there opposition to it?
Well, one of the bills, the bill to reduce the standard of proof in protective orders, I think there's some concern that it'll make it too easy to get a protective order. Interestingly, we're the only state in the entire country that still has this higher standard of proof. So I don't think we'd be out on a limb to reduce the standard of proof. The permanent protective order, again, I think what most people don't understand with the permanent protective order, the only part of it that's permanent is that it orders the respondent to stay away from the victim and not to re-abuse her. So there's not a lot of relief in it. It's only for a very small group of people. It doesn't deal with any of the family law issues.
Okay. And how will this legislation, if put in place, change things for you in terms of your ability to help people at the House of Ruth?
To me, one of the really important bills would be changing the standard of proof in a protective order, because we represent about 1,300 or 1,400 people a year in protective orders. Right now, the petitioner comes in before the judge, the respondent's there, they're both telling their story of what happened. I think we all recognize, a lot of domestic violence is he said, she said. In order to get to this level of a preponderance of the evidence, which is the standard we'd like to change it to, the judge has to believe, kind of by 51%, that the petitioner is telling the truth, that this act of abuse occurred. Under the current standard, they have to get to clear and convincing evidence, which is, I don't know, 65 or 70%. It's just a much higher standard. And often there isn't really a lot of other evidence. It's really her word against his word. So I think this will make it easier for somebody who truly is in fear to be able to get a protective order.
Okay. Put it in perspective for us, what we're dealing with here in Baltimore. How prevalent is domestic violence?
Well, I think they say nationally that 1 in 4 people are victims of domestic violence. And I think Baltimore is the same as every place else. It cuts across every line that you can think of, every race, religion, age, economic status. People are being abused.
And for those who don't know about House of Ruth, give us a little insight into what it is that you provide.
The House of Ruth is a comprehensive domestic violence program. We have a 24-hour hotline. We have counseling both for people who are in our shelter and people who are not in our shelter. We have an 84-bed shelter. We have an abuser intervention program, a client service program, and the legal clinic. Our legal clinic is in Baltimore City, Prince George's County, and Montgomery County.
Okay. And how rewarding is it for you to be part of that type of operation where you're actually helping empower women?
People often say to me, oh, isn't it depressing working at the House of Ruth? And I always tell them, no, it's just the opposite, because I know, particularly in the legal clinic, that our clients would not have a lawyer were it not for the House of Ruth. And imagine being beaten up, going down to the courthouse, not having a clue what the judge is talking about, and having to fight against the person who just beat you up. Having us there, we can help stand with her and fight for what she has the right to have. So we represent some women in divorce or custody cases. Those are complicated. Making sure you get child support, alimony, use and possession of the house, part of the pension. These are complicated issues for anybody, much less somebody who's scared of the person they're litigating against.
Yeah, I mean, the last thing you want to think about is how you're possibly going to go through this legal battle when you're dealing with something like that. Any advice for women who might be watching this show, who are going through this?
One of the hardest things that I hear from women when I talk to them about why they didn't call the House of Ruth. I often will say to somebody, is there anything we could do differently that would make you want to call the House of Ruth? And what women have said to me over and over again is, I didn't think what was happening to me was bad enough to use the House of Ruth services. And I just want women to know it's bad enough. Call us. There's something we can do for you. You may not get every service we have, but there's something we can do for you.
Right, that's a really important point. Good advice. Thank you so much. We appreciate your insight.
You're welcome.
Nice meeting you. And stay with us. Former addict Tim Weber shares his road to recovery. Don't go away. You're watching London TV Health.
Today we're here to show real people voice control from Xfinity.
Do you ever find yourself talking to your TV?
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to show you something that's going to blow the camo off your shirt.
Let's see it.
You just get your smartphone, tap the mic button.
Show me Jurassic Park. Jimmy Fallon. Kids movies on Stars.
Can your current provider do that?
No.
This opens up a whole nother world.
Find your favorites faster. Get the Xfinity X1 Triple Play for $79.99 a month for 12 months. And get double the internet speed for $10 more a month. Only at Comcast.com/switch today.
Be My Valentine. Half-carat flowing hearts are $3.99. Infinity, floating heart, and journey pendants are $99. Diamond studs $59. And 2-carat diamond and amethyst pendants just $39. Buy factory direct and save. The Jewelry Exchange in Bethesda.
Do you need a plumber? Call Len the Plumber. Do you need service today? Call Len the Plumber and have it done today.
The only way to get a plumber today, just call Len the Plumber.
It's Mattress Discounters Half Price Sale. For a limited time only, get half off. Select Serta Queen sets are half off. Spring Air, half off. King Coil, half off. And Sealy sets are half off. Queen sets start at $299.99. We beat everyone's price on Sealy Posturepedic, Simmons Beauty Rest, and Serta Perfect Sleeper. Guaranteed. If you buy your mattress anywhere else, you'll pay too much. Mattress Discounters!
Being in broadcasting for nearly 44 years now has taken me around the world, from covering wars to the elevation of Baltimore's Archbishop in Rome.
WBAL TV 11, Stan Stovall.
But every night at 11, it's about live coverage of late-breaking news happening right now in our city and counties. Infrastructure problems crippling neighborhoods, crime keeping Baltimore on alert, and the investigations keeping our lawmakers accountable. It's how we keep you informed about important local stories before your day ends.
The death of actor Philip Seymour Hoffman has sparked conversations about the dark world of drug addiction. Tim Weber joins us today, along with his wife Kathy, to tell us about his road to recovery and how drugs almost tore their life apart. Welcome, Tim and Kathy. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
So, Seymour Hoffman, this is a story that obviously just happened, and so a lot of people are talking about it. And when you heard about it, I'm interested in knowing your reaction.
Well, the first thing I thought was, I was sad. I was very sad. I know that feeling of being in a hotel room or in an apartment and having the drugs there, and you just, the hope you have is that someone will find you and take you away from all that. And in the same thought, you have the fear is that someone's going to find you and take you away from all that. So it's like I kind of felt, and I don't know this for sure because I don't know his whole story, but I felt like he felt those feelings. So I know how people feel when they're lost in that addiction.
So you were Philip Seymour Hoffman?
Yeah, yes.
You're just alive to tell the story?
Yes, exactly. And it's, yes.
How were you introduced to heroin initially?
Initially, I started off in when I was in college. I got introduced to a drug called crystal meth, and I started injecting it at the age of about 18 or 19 years old. And other guys at college and girls that looked just like I did were doing the same thing. Not everybody, but some people, and they didn't look like drug addicts, and I thought, what could it hurt? So I started with that, and what eventually happened is I was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and it was actually in Houston where I first started. Someone pulled out black tar heroin, and I tried it for the first time, and I was already injecting drugs, so I injected it, and that was around the age of 25, and I just was hooked from day one. It was just...
So how many years did this last?
12 years. I got clean when I was 37, so it was about Is that 12 years?
All right.
It was 12 years. Not using every day throughout that time, but if I wasn't in a rehab, or I wasn't in jail, or if I wasn't in a homeless shelter or something, most of that time I was using. I would clean up a little bit, but I would never do the things I needed to do to stay clean, to stay in recovery.
When you hear stories like Philip Seymour Hoffman, do you think about the fact that you really could have died on many occasions?
Yes, yeah. And in Maryland, and if I can put statistics out there, that the Carroll County Health Department, I get newsletters and I do stuff with them. They have there was 378 heroin overdoses in Maryland. There was 13 in my county, in Carroll County. This was in 2012. And out of those 13, I probably know 6 of them that have either been through stuff that we do, or been through one of my sober houses, and then go out and don't stay in recovery. So yeah, I definitely think it could have happened to.
Yeah, so it's much more prevalent than people probably know.
Absolutely.
We're going to bring you into this discussion obviously very soon, because you're part of his recovery. Talk about how you finally got to the point where you knew you needed help.
Well, I probably knew for a long time, but I didn't get to that point of being willing to do the things. Because I went to Father Martin's a couple of times. You know, I had family support and people helping, which those places were great. They actually send me people to my houses now. I finally got to the point where I was just tired. I just was tired of doing it. I had been in jail. I had overdosed. I had to be shot full of the Narcan to breathe again. A lot of things had happened that just didn't do it. But there was a point, it was actually Kathy, when I told her I was going to get help again, she gave me a look, and it was that look of just shame and disgust and like, how can you do this again?
Yeah.
And it was that moment that I started to feel like I need to try to do the things. And I went and checked into the hospital for the last time. And that was November 8th, 2003. And I went to Howard County General. And 3 days later, I ended up at a sober house. And I've been clean ever since. And I just started following direction and stayed in recovery. Not just stayed away from drugs, stayed in recovery and try to do stuff like this.
Kathy, he talks about after you met, 2 weeks later, he was back doing heroin again. Tell us about that experience and what it was like to be part of that process.
Well, and also to make clear, I know nothing about heroin, cocaine. I mean, that's not the life that I lived. So I was very naive. I was very young and naive, and I didn't pick up on a lot of the things that I would now.
Yeah. How did you meet?
We actually met through a mutual friend that we had. And just by chance meeting. So, but it was, we were helping a friend move, and that's how we were introduced.
Okay.
And I was clean at the time.
Yes.
Okay. So it was probably a pretty rocky road toward the end of his use.
It was, and when at first, like I said, I was very naive, so when he was using it, I kept feeling like something wasn't right. But then I would talk to him, and of course he'd convince me otherwise, and so it was just, there was no getting him to just be honest and tell the truth at the time until I got wiser to what was going on.
Yeah.
You know, and then I was able to stand up, you know, kind of take my ground. And
right. It had to take a lot of strength, I'm sure, for both of you. What role do you think you played in his survival?
You know what? I think that would be kind of a spiritually answered question. I think that we were spiritually driven together, because I don't have any other answer. I mean,
would you agree with that?
Yeah. She's definitely the spiritual backbone in the family.
There was an angel in there somewhere.
Clearly. Talk about your recovery. Fast forward to where you are now and what you're doing to help others.
I have 2 sober houses that I have. There's 7 guys in each house, and I get calls from the hospitals. I used to go in and tell them I was suicidal, and it's interesting. Now I had a good avenue to find places to get people to come. So I have the sober houses. I speak at events with Carroll County and different things, and
written a book.
Written a book.
Yeah, tell us about that.
The book is Gutters and Roses, and it's kind of gutters because I was in the gutters, and my wife and I own a flower shop, and so I had learned
like
flowers.
That title?
Yeah, it's it's So in this book is actually the second edition to the first book. It actually has some of the stories from guys that live in the sober house, and it's actually my journey from starting from a little kid, where I first started drinking in high school, playing lacrosse, and you know, not a kid you would have thought was going to end up homeless in Baltimore, and it just shows the eventual going down that road, and then how I was led out of it in the stuff I do today.
I bet you it's a powerful read. I thank you both for being with us. I wish we had more time to talk about this, but hopefully people will pick up your book and, you know, get more on your story. Thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate your honesty as well, and good luck to you both.